What's up guys, AsianCraft Plays here. Welcome back to another video, and on today's video I'm going to be doing part 6 of reading Master Slur's story, The Crystal Ark, part 3 of chapter 1. So before we get started, I need you guys to please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Let's get started and start reading through the story. Part 3, Glovin's Message. The next morning, Richard woke up with a heavy feeling in his chest. The grief from yesterday's conversation about his mother still clung to him, making everything feel dull and distant. As he moved through his routine, the weight of his thoughts pulled at him, but he kept moving, showering, dressing, grabbing his bag, anything to keep his mind from wandering too far into the dark places. His phone suddenly buzzed on the counter, breaking the silence of the room. Richard glanced at the screen, seeing his dad's name light up. Hesitating for just a moment, he picked up the phone and answered. "Hey son," his dad's voice crackled, distant but steady. "I know things have been rough. Your sister told me about your grandma and your mom." Richard's heart sank again at the mention of his mom. "Thanks, Dad. I appreciate you being there for me." His voice was quieter than he intended, trying to hide the emotional weight that threatened to spill over. "I wish I could be there to comfort you," his dad added, the pain in his voice almost palatable. "If you need anything, I'm just a call away." Richard nodded, even though his dad couldn't see him. Even though his dad couldn't see him, the lump in his throat making it harder to speak. "I'll be okay," he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. "I'll talk to you later." After a brief pause, he ended the call, leaving the phone on the counter. The momentary connection to his dad didn't erase the ache, though. His mind was already filled with questions about the crystal, his grandma's death, the strange figure he'd seen the other night, all the things that didn't make sense. He ran his fingers through his hair and sighed, feeling the weight of all it again. As he grabbed his bag and headed out the door, his thoughts were still swirling. There were too many things he needed to understand, and every day felt like it brought him closer to something he wasn't sure he was ready to face. At Glovin's laboratory, 2023. The lab was nothing like it had been decades ago. Once a simple workshop filled with scattered blueprints and makeshift tools, it had evolved into a fortress of innovation. Advanced technology lined the walls, glowing monitors displayed complex schematics, and reinforced security system ensured no unwanted visitors. The camera moved slowly through the lab, the hum of machinery filling the air before settling on Glovin, now 64, stands of gray in his once dark hair, deep lines of age and experience marking his face. Despite the years, his hands remained steady as they worked tirelessly on a new device, a mechanism designed to heal injuries automatically. His fingers tightened a bolt as he sighed. "This is exhausting," he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "I've been working on these devices for years, and I'm still nowhere near finished." Across the lab, Frank, his longtime colleague, eyed a suit hanging in the back, a sleek yellow and black design, polished, untouched. "Can't believe you made that suit," he said, arms crossed. Glovin glanced at it, his expression unreadable. "Yeah, I made it for someone special. I've been eyeing on him recently. His dad was telling me about him a few years ago. Now that he's older, maybe he can show his son." Frank was curious. "We still need to be careful, cause what if he doesn't like the idea of us stalking him?" "I mean, it's wrong, but..." Glovin smiled. "I have faith in the kid. His dad wanted me to keep him safe. That's what it was. I'm sorry if it seems like I'm stalking, but I'm just trying to keep this kid safe, especially nowadays." Silence lingered between them before Glovin shook his head and returned to his work, and as he rummaged through a drawer, his hand brushed against something cold and metallic. He pulled it out, a small dust-covered device, a locator. He turned it on, and the screen flickered to life, emitting a faint hum. Frank, now curious, walked over. "Wait, isn't that the locator you used to track the crystal when you hit it?" Glovin's breath hitched, and the memories came rushing back. The fear, the desperation, the night he buried the crystal away, hoping it would never be found. He stared at the screen, his expression hardening. "You're right, but the crystal is not where I left it. It's not where I left it. I've been carefully looking at his pulses every time, and finally, after years, someone has gotten it. Frank's jaw tightened. Then we got a serious problem. The urgency in the room became palpable. The locator beeped again, refining the signal, but something felt off. Glovin narrowed his eyes. Wait, what if it's Cole? Frank questioned. Glovin hesitated, his mind racing. Nah, it's not him, but someone I know. Again, Cole is out there, and he hasn't come out of his hiding spot since. But I know it's not him, because he would have done something by now. A chill settled over him. Glovin straightened, snapping the locator shut, but we can't waste time. There's a bunker below, hidden weapons, reinforced. Frank hesitated. You really think we're gonna need all that? Because if you know who it is, why are you bringing a damn gun? Glovin gave him a sharp look. It's not the person, but the crystal itself. That's why I'm worried, and we need to be careful, because the crystal can react and hurt people. That's why I need to tell him. With that, he moved to a hidden panel on the wall, pressing a sequence of keys. The ground rumbled, a metal shifting as a concealed hatch slid open. A dark staircase led down to the depth below. Frank and Ched, another colleague, exchanged uncertain glances before following Glovin into the bunker. As they reached the bottom, the dim lighting flickered on, revealing rows of suits, weapons, and unfinished projects lining the wall. Frank's eyes widened. I knew you worked on weapons, but I didn't know you made this many. Glovin nodded, walking past the arsenal. His fingers skimmed over an old pistol before he picked it up, weighing it in his hand. This was my first gun, he murmured, a rare trace of nostalgia in his voice. The bunker fell silent, save for the quiet click of the safety disengaging. The screen cuts to black. Richard stepped out of the funeral home, the cold air hitting his face as he took a shaky breath. His hands were buried deep in his pockets, fists clenched as if trying to hold everything in grief, frustration, the overwhelming weight of loss. His father walked beside him, silent at first, until they reached the car. This is tough on you, son. It all happened so fast, his dad said, his voice steady but filled with concern. Richard swallowed, staring at the pavement before getting into the passenger seat. Yeah, I don't know what to do without them. There's so much I have to take care of now. His dad started the engine, glancing at him. Just know you have me and your sister. We'll help you through this. Richard exhaled, nodding. Thanks. I really appreciate it, Dad. You mean a lot to me, even when I'm hurting like this. He turned his gaze out the window, watching the world pass by as thoughts flooded his mind. Is this really my life now? Am I just meant to watch people die? First my grandma, now my mom. Is death coming for me too? He tightened his jaw, gripping the edge of his seat. No, not yet. I can't let it. I have these powers now. I have to use them for them. But why me? Why do I have to carry this? If no one else will stop this pain, then I will. As they pulled into a small diner, Richard instinctively reached into his pocket, feeling the crystal's warmth against his palm. He quickly turned it away, not wanting his dad to see. He already made enough mistakes. He couldn't let it control him, not now. Inside, the scent of fresh coffee and syrup filled the air. His dad gave the menu a quick glance before ordering. Can we get lemon pancakes and a Coke? That'll be all, Richard told the waiter. All right, I'll be back shortly, the waiter nodded and walked off. His dad leaned back, studying him for a moment. So besides all of this happening, what's on your mind? You thinking about getting a job after school? Richard sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Maybe, I graduate in a couple months, then who knows? But I want to do more than just work, Dad. I want to make a difference. I know getting a job is important, but money's not my priority. My priority is figuring out where am I supposed to go next. His dad nodded, taking a sip of water. I get that you're grown now. You can make your own choices. I won't force you into anything, but having something stable before chasing what you really want, it helps. I know it's not easy, Richard admitted. Pain is part of growth. You work through it. You get stronger, even when it's hard. I might not explain things well, but I just want to make the world better for us, As he spoke, the crystal poked faintly in his pocket, like it was listening. His dad almost noticed, but Richard shifted, keeping it hidden. The waiter returned with their food, and they ate in a relative silence, the weight of unspoken thoughts hanging between them. When they finished, they stepped back outside. The Evening air cooler now. His dad clapped a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to figure it out all today, son. Richard looked up at the sky, then at his father. Maybe not today, but soon. As they walked toward the car, he glanced down at his hand, feeling the crystal's warmth seep into his skin. No more running. No more waiting. If no one else will step up, then I will. Wait, didn't I already say this? The next morning, Richard sat at his desk, eyes locked on his laptop screen as an overwhelming list of assignments filled the display. Pages of essays, problem sets, and unread discussion posts stacked up like a wall. He had no idea how to climb. His inbox was overflowing with reminders, each notification making his frustration go. Damn, he muttered, gripping the sides of his head. Didn't think I'd have this much. He exhaled sharply, leaning back in his chair as the weight of it all pressed down on him. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, but his mind was stuck in place, drowning in the sheer amount of work. He hadn't even started yet, and it already felt like too much. For a moment, he just stared at the screen, the bright glow making his eyes ache. The cursor blinked on a blank document, mocking his lack of progress. He clicked through the tab, skimming through instructions, but the words blurred together in his tired mind. Shaking his head, he rolled his shoulders and cracked his knuckles, trying to snap himself out of it. He had no choice but to push through. With a deep breath, he placed his hands on the keyboard and started typing. I'll manage, he muttered under his breath. He had to. He clicked into the first assignment and started typing. The first few sentences were rough. His brain sluggish, but soon momentum took over. His fingers moved faster, ideas clicking into place. One assignment down, then another. The sound of keys clacking filled the room as he pushed through each task, barely stopping to check the time. An hour passed, then two. By the time he leaned back again, the weight in his chest had eased. He glanced at the screen. Nearly everything was done, and his inbox was cleared. His assignments turned in. He wasn't finished with everything, but the worst of it was behind him. Letting out a breath, he rubbed his eyes, a tired smirk tugging at his lips. Managed more than I thought. His body ached from sitting so long, but the sense of relief was worth it. He stretched his arms over his head, then shut the laptop with a satisfying click. For now, he earned a break. At breakfast, Caleb approaches the table, adjusting his bag. I'm heading to class early, not hungry. I'll eat later. Richard looks up from his tray and nods. Okay. As Caleb walks off, Anthony drops into the seat across from Richard, setting down his food. So, any plans for your powers yet? Richard exhales, rubbing his forehead. Dude, I just got this crystal and you're already asking about plans. I barely understand what I'm dealing with. He leans forward, his tone more serious. But if I'm gonna use it, I have to control it, train with it, make sure it's for the right reasons. I have to use it for good. There's no other options. Anthony nods, intrigued. That could be crazy useful. Have you tried anything new? Richard groans. Oh my god, you and your questions. He takes a breath before answering. So far, I figured out flight and super strength, but the crystal, it's weird. Feels like there's more to it, but I don't know what yet. Damn, Anthony mutters, shaking his head. You've got to learn how to control it. Yeah, no kidding, Richard replies, giving him a pointed look. That's exactly what I say. What I said. I do, buddy. Right, fair point. Anthony shrugs, finishing off his drink as they part ways for class. Richard suddenly freezes, patting his pockets. His phone, he left it at home, cursing under his breath. He heads straight for the front office, hoping to talk his way into a quick trip back. Hey, is it okay if I run home real quick? I forgot my phone, he asked, trying to keep his tone casual. The clerk barely looks up. No, school's already started. You can't leave. Richard clenches his jaw. Damn it, his frustration flares, but there's nothing he can do. With a sigh, he turns away, resigned to surviving the day without it. Glovin's locator beeped, the signal narrowing down to a specific location. A school? What the hell? A school? He muttered under his breath, his eyes narrowing. Right, I forgot. It's a school day for him. Determined, Glovin quickly gathered his team. Let's go. We need to be careful here. I don't want to alert anyone, especially not him. They arrived at the school, and Glovin rang the doorbell. The clerk inside glanced up and buzzed them in without much hesitation. Stay here. I'll see if I can get permission to search the school. Glovin instructed his team, giving them a pointed look before stepping inside. The clerk was finishing a phone call When Glovin approached the counter, he waited, arms crossed, until she finally hung up. "How can I help you?" she asked, her tone indifferent. Glovin didn't waste time. "I'm looking for a red crystal. I need to find it." The clerk raised an eyebrow, clearly confused. "A crystal? Who are you?" Glovin's eyes sharpened and he kept his voice steady. "My name's Glovin. I'm a scientist and a mechanic. I need to search the classrooms for the crystal." She hesitated, clearly unsure, but after a moment of silent consideration, she nodded. "All right, you can look." Too easy, Glovin thought. Barely hiding his surprise, he turned to call his partners. "Let's move," he said, walking deeper into the school. As he passed through the hallways, Glovin's mind wandered back in time. This school is changed so much. He shook the thought away, focusing on the task at hand. Richard was here. He had to be careful. Glovin wasn't here to cause trouble. He was here to find Richard and explain the crystal's power. It was critical, and Richard needed to understand before it was too late. He dialed back the urgency in his step, knowing he had to be subtle. If Richard learned about the crystal's true nature too soon, things could spiral out of control. "We'll find him first, then we talk," he muttered to himself, mentally preparing for the conversation ahead. Richard and Caleb were hunched over their assignments when the sudden blare of the school's lockdown alarm sliced through the air, sending a chill down their spines. "Who did that?" Glovin muttered, his eyes scanning the hallways for any sign of trouble. The intercom crackled to life, his voice sharp and frantic. "The school is now in lockdown. There are 3 armed individuals inside the building." "Damn it," Glovin cursed under his breath. Shed must have been caught. "I've got to move fast." In the classroom, Richard and Caleb exchanged worried glances. 3? They must want to kill everyone," Richard muttered, his brow furrowed. "I need to know who these people are. They could be dangerous." Richard quickly stepped to the door, peering through the window. His eyes widened. He saw a man in a lab coat, armed with a gun. "Yup, there's a guy with a gun and he's wearing a lab coat," Richard muttered to himself, ducking behind the door as quietly as possible. The door suddenly slammed open and Glovin stepped inside, his eyes scanning the room with a sharp, focused intensity. "All right, people, where's the crystal?" The classroom fell into stunned silence. Glovin's voice cut through the stillness. Again, more insistent this time. "I'm not asking again. Where's the crystal?" Panic rippled through the students. The teacher froze, his eyes widened with confusion. Caleb exchanged a quick glance with Richard, trying to process the situation. Richard's heart pounded in his chest. He instinctively glanced at his neck where the crystal pulsed faintly, its glow dim but steady. "Wait, does he mean me?" The crystal hummed as though responding to Richard's heightened emotions, its light flickering. Richard gathered all his courage. "You're looking at the guy who has it. Who are you and why are you here?" His voice was firm, but he could feel his hands shaking. Glovin's gaze locked onto Richard with a mixture of understanding and urgency. He stepped closer, his tone softer, but still filled with resolve. "I know you have it. I can feel the power it's giving off." Glovin looked around at the students who were now whispering in fear. "Listen to me, Richard. I'm here to help you." Richard's breath caught in his throat as Glovin continued. "I'm Glovin. I'm a scientist. I've been studying these crystals for a long time, and I need to explain what it is, what it does, and why you need to understand its power before it consumes you." Richard narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about? You just barged into a school and now you're saying you're here to help me?" His voice was tight with suspicion. "Why should I trust you? You got 2 other armed people with you, and you're scaring everyone here." "I get it," Glovin said, raising a hand to show he meant no harm. "I didn't intend to scare anyone, but the truth is, this crystal isn't just some artifact. It's dangerous. It has immense power, and if it's not controlled, it will consume you, Richard. I'm trying to prevent that from happening." Richard's heart raced, the rate of Glovin's words sinking in control. He felt a surge of anger rise within him. "I'm trying to control it. You think I don't know what this thing can do? I've been struggling with it for months." Richard's voice cracked as he fought to hold back the overwhelming fear. "I don't need your help. I can do this myself." Glovin took a step forward, his voice now more earnest. "Now, I'm not saying you can control it, Richard, but you need to understand it better. The crystal feeds off your emotions. It amplifies them. The more you let it control you, the more dangerous it becomes. Not just to you, but to everyone around you. I'm here to help you learn how to manage it." Richard clenched his fist. "But I don't want to hurt anyone." The crystal pulsed a sharp, angry hum in response to his emotions. Before Richard could respond, the door to the classroom burst open The door to the classroom burst open. Shed, panic etched in his face, Russian gun raised in his haste. He accidentally fired a shot straight toward Richard. The red crystal flared to life, forming a magnetic shield around Richard. Just as the bullet neared him, the bullet bounced off, careening wildly in the chaos that flowed. The bullet struck another student, sending them collapsing to the ground, blood pooling on the floor. No, no! Richard's voice cracked, his eyes wide with horror. What did you do? He took a shaky step back, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Glovin whipped around, fury flashing in his eyes as he glared at Shed. What have you done, you idiot? He shouted. Shed froze, his face pale with shock. I didn't mean to. I thought. Richard couldn't take his eyes off the injured student, his pulse raising as panic set him. This is my fault. If I hadn't reacted, if I just let it be. Glovin stepped closer to Richard, his expression softening with understanding. It's not your fault, Richard, Glovin said, his voice calm, but this is why I need to help you. You can't let the crystal take control. We need to figure out how to manage it together before it gets worse. Richard nodded slowly, his thoughts racing. Maybe he's right. Maybe I can't do this on my own. Glovin looked at him seriously. Trust me, Richard. I'm not your enemy. I'm here to help. But even as Glovin spoke, Richard couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the edge of something much larger than he could ever imagine. Before Richard could respond to Glovin, the door to the classroom suddenly burst open with a deafening crash. Several police officers stormed in, their guns drawn in their eyes, scanning the room. Freeze, one of the officers barked, his voice sharp and commanding. The room went silent as everyone froze in fear, the weight of the situation suddenly becoming very real. Richard's heart raced as he looked from Glovin to Shed and Frank. He barely had time to process what was happening before the officers were already on the move, swiftly closing in on the three men. Shed, Frank, and Glovin. The officer called out, his gaze locking onto each of them. You're all under arrest for multiple charges, including armed assault and trespassing. Richard had barely registered the chaos when the officers were already handcuffing the three men. Glovin's eyes met Richard's one last time. The officers pulled him toward the door, his face still full of urgency softened as he called out, remember who you are, Richard. Don't let it take control over you. His voice rang with an intensity that seemed to hang in the air. Richard stood frozen for a moment, the words hanging in silence. Okay, he mumbled, unsure of what to make of it. His mind was still reeling from everything that had happened, the weight of Glovin's warning heavy on his shoulders, and as the officers escorted Glovin, Shed, and Frank down the hallway, the room seemed to exhale collectively, though no one spoke. The chaos of the situation began to settle into an eerie calm. The dust in the air settled, but the tension in the classroom remained thick, everyone's eyes drawn to the injured student on the floor. The sight of blood was enough to make Richard's stomach churn. He turned away from the scene, walking back toward his desk with a heavy alert. This is all my fault. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. He sank into his seat, silence of the room pressing in on him. The words Glovin had left behind still echoed in his mind. Don't let it take control over you. Richard ran his hand through his hair, trying to calm his racing thoughts. What did he mean? Was I really in danger of losing control? He couldn't help but feel a knot tightening in his chest as the officers continued to take the trio away. The classroom finally began to quiet down, the students too scared to speak. Richard knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The events of that day had shifted something in him. He couldn't ignore it anymore. The crystal, the power is too much to carry alone. The weight of everything bore down on him as he looked at the student still lying motionless on the floor, the blood pooling around them. I need to control it. I have to. The thought was fleeting but sharp, and Richard couldn't ignore it any longer. I need help, but can I trust anyone? Caleb checks on the injured student. He's still alive, but he's hurt badly. This is my fault, Richard whispered, guilt gnawing at him. I should have stopped it, but I didn't in time. Caleb shakes his head. It's not your fault. That guy shot at you, and somehow the bullet bounced off, but I've got to ask, what's going on with you? The teacher tries to stabilize the injured student. I'll call an ambulance. Richard hesitates, but finally confesses, I've got powers from a crystal. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Caleb's eyes widen. A crystal? You mentioned something about a crystal causing your grandma's death. Yeah, I think this is it. I'm doing my best not to hurt anyone. Also, even though Also, even though some voices, as Richard sat there, his thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and fear, he felt something shift within him. A sudden, chilling voice but cut through his mind, sharp and venomous. "Don't say anything, I'll kill you myself." Okay, I'm gonna stop right here on this part. Don't say anything or I'll kill you myself, and I will probably continue reading sometime tomorrow. But yeah, I must say, part 3 of chapter 1 is insane so far. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, I'm gonna continue tomorrow because it's getting pretty late for me, and yeah, I'll see you guys on my next video tomorrow.